The subject of the present day presentation is the rise of the physical sciences in early modern Europe. First of all, I show you the publications about the subject I've written over time. The most important article is the rise of the physical sciences in stricto sensu, published in 2017 in Physics International. And also recommendable is the article about the history of philosophy explained in terms of stage theory, because there is a parallel development concerning the history of sciences and the history of philosophy, and therefore it is useful to study both articles. Piaget himself worked out in his book Psychogenesis et l'histoire des sciences, Psychogenesis and the History of Sciences, New York, Columbia University Press, 1989, published together with Orlando Garcia, a former dean of the Faculty of Physical Sciences at an university in Buenos Aires. Piaget himself maintained time and again that there is a deep connection between the rise of the formal operational stage and the rise of the understanding of natural sciences, both in ontogenesis and the history of sciences. Again and again, Piaget, together with his collaborators, in a couple of his books and articles, described that the emergence of the adolescent stage of formal operations in the child, in the adolescent, in the mind of the teenager, is a precondition to their capacity, to their ability to understand physical sciences at school. Especially in his book, together with Bärbel Inhelder, From the Logic of the Child to the Logic of the Adolescent, in 1958, especially in this book, he showed that physical sciences emerge when the formal operational stage emerges in the adolescent. And in his book, Psychogenesis et l'histoire des sciences, he worked out in detail that the rise of the formal operational stage in the minds of scientists of the 17th century was a precondition to the emergence of the physical sciences. What he did not formulate and maintain was that the emergence of the formal operational stage was the sole precondition to the rise of the physical sciences. And that former societies and former philosophers weren't able to create the physical sciences because they did not stay on the formal operational stage. But these two contentions emerged directly from that what Piaget himself described time and again. So it is buried in the mind of Jean Piaget himself that the formal operational stage is the sole precondition to the rise of physical sciences, and that the former societies, peoples, and philosophers weren't able to create the physical sciences because they did not stay on the formal operational stage. It may be that he defined this not exactly as I had done this, but it is encapsulated in his own ideas to come to these conclusions. The physical sciences emerged in Hellenistic times, about 300 before Christ. And it had a lot of protagonists who, staying on the formal operational stage, must be out of doubt. For example, Archimedes, the alleged engineer of the planet model of Antikythera, the builder of a steam cannon, the builder of the Syracusia ship with a length of allegedly 200 meters, and Archimedes, the maker of a lot of engineering concerning the construction of ships and so on. Also, Eratosthenes or Hipparchus, the discoverer of the role of the immovable stars. All these scientists were staying on the formal operational stage, and therefore the physical sciences emerged in Greece at that time. But this Hellenistic era of sciences collapsed with the Roman conquest of the Eastern Mediterranean. And the later Roman Empire was not good concerning the heritage of these achievements. And so during the Roman Empire, the physical sciences did not develop very well, but tended to collapse. And the second rise of the physical sciences is defined by the experiments of Galileo Galilei in the 1590s concerning especially his experiments with falling objects and the laws he discovered by these experiments. The prime work of the early modern sciences is the Principia of Isaac Newton of 1687, where he developed a complete theory of the universe basing on principles of mechanics. He engineered and construed a complete theory of the universe basing on principles of empirical causality, basing on principles of the mechanical worldview, surmounting all these animistic and magical principles we find in the philosophy of Aristotle. When we want to answer the question why the physical sciences emerged as late as in early modern Europe in the 17th century, then we come to two theories that have tried to answer the question. The first is a theory that overlooks and ignores all those intellectual preconditions that must be given to allow physical sciences to emerge according to stage theory. This first theory ignores that different people stay on different psychological stages, and that therefore those people that stay on the pre-operational or concrete operational stage are not able to elaborate the physical sciences. And therefore, This theory sees the rise of the physical sciences as a development answering to societal and economic requirements in society. The unspoken precondition of this theory is that all people are able to think scientifically, and that they develop sciences only then when it is required, when it is necessary, according to social and economic requirements. And implicitly or explicitly, Piaget himself would have refuted and rejected this theory. And I did it in my books and articles pertaining to the subject also. It is a wrong idea that peoples around the world always had the preconditions to develop sciences. Conversely, I maintain that people must first previously develop the formal operational stage, and then when they have elaborated this formal operational stage, they immediately, in the first generation, develop the physical sciences. That means there was not a time lag between the development of the formal operational stage and the rise of the physical sciences. Conversely, the first generation in early modern Europe to develop the formal operational stage, to attain the adolescent stage of formal operations, that was the generation that created immediately, successfully, the physical sciences. And that is a contention that can be proven. What must be done to develop the formal operational stage? It must be surmounted all those elements of the ancient worldview based on the pre-operational stage or on the concrete operational stage. When people think in musical terms, they cannot think scientifically. As long as people think in terms of animism and magic, they cannot think scientifically. As long as people are not able to perform the logistic and hypothetico-deductive conclusions, they are not able to think scientifically. But ancient or pre-modern peoples, unable to think scientifically, think in musical terms. For example, the Andaman Islanders believed that dusk and dawn are made by the cicadas. The singing of the cicadas is believed in these people to be the cause to let the sun appear or disappear, to make sun, daylight on the one hand, night and darkness on the other hand. They believe that these little animals were the makers of daylight. And as long as people have these childish, superficial, naive, and phenomenistic ideas, as long they are completely unable to think in rational, empirical, causal, and scientific terms. The belief of the Andaman Islanders is a childish view, belonging to a stage we find in modern society only among children aged 3 to 5. A modern child aged 7 or 8 years is unable to adhere to the belief of the Andaman Islanders. The cicadas could be the makers of the daylight. And therefore, it is absolutely clear that such a people is completely unable to develop sciences and to understand scientific contents when taught by other people. The second precondition is a people must be able to think in logical terms, to understand logic. If you do not understand logic, if you cannot think abstractively, then you cannot think scientifically, then you cannot understand sciences and you cannot make sciences. And pre-modern or archaic people are not able to perform the logistic conclusions and to understand the logistic conclusions when they are exposed to them. And therefore, it is absolutely clear that such a people cannot understand physical laws. To be able to understand physical laws, you must be able to understand the logisms. And we know from Piagetian cross-cultural psychology and from the Russian socio-historical school that ancient or pre-modern people are not able to understand the logisms. The third precondition must be that people must understand causality, the mechanical world order, the mechanical principles, and the discrimination between animate and inanimate matter, between biology and physics, between life and death, between consciousness and inanimate dead matter. Whenever a people cannot understand these concepts, they are not able to think scientifically. But ancient and pre-modern people all around the world understood nature in terms of life and consciousness. To them, all was alive and conscious. And therefore, they weren't able to understand physical sciences. For example, the evolution of astronomy and the evolution of physics was prepared or was accompanied by the replacement of the Aristotelian theory of movement by the causal theory, by the mechanical theory of movement, coming into being with Galileo Galilei and especially with Isaac Newton. Beforehand, Aristotelian theory of movement and the impetus theory of movement based on the idea that the bodies moved in space by own powers, actively, deliberately, supported by the surrounding air, supported by the cosmos, also by intentions and by magical power. And therefore, the ancient or medieval theory of movement, based on animism, based on magic, and misunderstood completely the mechanical conditions that make movements possible, may it be the movement of an arrow or of a star or of any other object. Ancient and medieval theory of movement understood the movement of objects in space comparable to the flight of a bird. They did not discriminate the flight of a bird of a movement of an object in space. And therefore, they weren't able to understand astronomy in terms of physics, to understand the stellar movements in terms of mechanical order, in terms of causality, in terms of empirical causality. To the pre-scientific culture of the medieval ages belongs the idea that the stars and planets move on their own, move by their will, obeying a cosmic order, obeying cosmic laws given by God. And therefore, in the same moments as the mechanical theory of movement appeared, astronomy appeared as a physical science, capable to explain the movements of stars and planets according to physical laws. What we see is that with the emergence of the formal operational stage concerning to the theory of movement, the first scientific theory of the universe emerged, given by the theory of Isaac Newton. The same transformation took place in chemistry. The pre-runner of chemistry was alchemy, but alchemy based on animism and magic. Pertaining to the ideas of the alchemists, the pre-runners of chemistry, according to these ideas, the chemical elements consisted of will, personality, and psyche, and that the elements were able to metamorphose to higher entities when supported by the hands of the alchemist, or by own powers, or by divine powers. And that the manipulation of chemical elements was possible basing on magical treatments, making these chemical elements or bringing chemical elements to higher stages of being, to higher stages of consciousness, to higher stages of material appearance. So we can allow metals to become gold, and this transformation is also a transformation to a higher form of consciousness, because gold was seen as a material consisting of a higher form of consciousness. So, to the alchemists, chemical elements were beings of mystery, were beings of philosophy, were beings of magical power, exposed to magical treatments, allowing their transformation. And it is absolutely clear that this theory cannot lead to practical results, to empirical results. It is a childish treatment of elements, a childish treatment of physical entities. You must have the brain of a child in your skull when you remain stuck in alchemy when dealing with chemical elements. And the dominance of alchemy was given up to the 16th century. And in the moment when the scientists discovered the mechanical order pertaining to chemical elements, when they discovered that there is no will and intention in the chemical elements involved, when they discovered that the chemical elements are dead matter and nothing else, and that their reactions are to be seen in terms of empirical causality, in terms of cause and effect, in terms of physical laws. In that moment, chemistry became successful, even in the first generation. Even in the first generation, from the transformation from alchemists to chemists, from alchemy to rational chemistry, great successes were gained containing the understanding of chemistry, containing the elements, the nature of the understanding of the nature of elements, and pertaining to perform successful chemical experiments leading to a more successful treatment of these elements to perform industrial results or other results, allowing economic success, allowing technical developments, and so on. So, the rise of the formal operational stage collapsed the magical animistic view pertaining to chemical elements and led immediately to successful technical developments. You see the same development in geology. The earth, the mountains, the landscapes, the rivers were seen by medieval scientists in terms of mythological explanations. They referred to that what the Bible and theology told them to understand mountains, rivers, landscapes, oceans, rivers, and the entire constitution of the earth. They referred to the Bible. They referred to theological considerations when they wanted to understand geology. And that is, they referred to mythical explanations and weren't able to understand nature in terms of rational and scientific explanations. And as they surmounted this mythical thinking by researching the concrete causes to the appearance of mountains, to the appearance of oceans, to the appearance of landscapes, as they started to develop rational explanations and to scrutinize the real conditions to the phenomena, as they received practical results. The same with biology. In medieval times, the scientists referred to the Bible or to corresponding contents and ideas when they wanted to understand the nature of animals. So they thought in mythical patterns of thought when they wanted to understand the nature of animals. As they went from mythical thinking about animals to the rational thinking about the nature of animals, they started to discover the true causes to the nature of animals. And it's especially the transformation from the magical understanding of the nature of animals, given in the Bible, for example, to the evolutionary theory of the origin of species. That is a transformation from the pre-operational to the formal operational stage concerning the understanding of the nature of animals. So the emergence of the evolutionary theory, for example, in the work of Charles Darwin on the origin of species of 1859, this transformation is nothing else than the transformation from pre-operational stage to the formal operational stage. When you stay on the formal operational stage, you will develop the evolutionary theory of the origin of species. You will surmount the ideas given in the Genesis of the Bible. And the ideas given in the Genesis of the Bible was that what dominated the thinking of scientists up to the 17th century at least. What we see now is that everywhere you study the development of sciences, the development of geology, the development of astronomy, the development of physics, the development of medicine, the development of biology, you always see that these disciplines started their work and gained successful results. In that moment, as they changed their framework from the pre-operational and concrete operational stage to the formal operational stage. In that moment, in that they developed and emerged and created a form of thinking basing on the formal operational stage. They gained successful results and they gained the character of being true sciences. And therefore, I come to the conclusion that there's only one condition given to the rise of the physical sciences. And that is the establishment of the formal operational stage in those circles that deal with experiments and that deal with explanations. That means scientific circles. In the time when the scientific circles surmount their adherence to concepts and theories pertaining to the pre-operational stage and going up to the formal operational stage, developing the concepts empirical causality, physical law, mechanical world order, clockwork model of universe, then you will see the successes made by the scientists during the 17th, 18th, and 19th century. And not by chance, the physical sciences emerged first in Europe, while Asia, Africa, pre-Columbian America remained staying on the lower stages, as they were not successful in developing the physical sciences. The physical sciences developed strongest in Europe from 1519 with Galileo Galilei up to the 19th century. And up to the 19th century, sciences, the physical sciences, were something that was limited to the Western world, because only the Western world developed the formal operational stage to higher forms. Nowadays, sciences are a worldwide product, and China produces now more scientific work, scientific publications than any other culture. But this is a result of the dissemination of scientific results, sciences on a worldwide scale, and a result of modern education around the world, a result of the dissemination of the formal operational stage in the minds of the people.